Thanks for joining us. I'm Eric Goldberg, Director of Product Marketing at Celigo, and today's session is Achieve Data Readiness for AI and Data Ingestion. So just some quick housekeeping before we start. We are recording this, so everyone who registered will get the recording afterwards. And we want to hear from you, so use the Q&A panel to drop questions as they come in, and we'll get to them at the end. And anything that we don't cover, we'll follow up on right afterwards. So first things first, I want to introduce my special guest. He is the Global Industry GTM Leader for Snowflake. Please welcome Prabhath Nanisetty. Prabhath, how are you?
Hello. Hi, everyone. Nice to meet you.
Thanks very much for coming in. We've got a great session. I'm really excited about it. So before we get started, Prabhath, I thought we would start with a poll question. So the poll is, which of these is your biggest data pain point? And you'll see here in the survey, you get some options to choose from. So we'll give people about 30 to 45 seconds to respond and answer. But Prabhath, from your perspective, what are you seeing as the biggest data points that your customers are coming on and asking you about?
Well, we see a lot. I think there are a lot of the traditional problems with data pipelines being brittle and other things. But I think in the race to get AI ready, I think that's exacerbated a lot of problems. And so for a lot of our customers, it really is a lot of the fundamentals. How do we get data more easily from source systems to our data platform? And then from there, how do we actually start to drive automations and outcomes to actually get value or be more accessible to the AI or agents that they've chosen? So that comes up all the time.
So there we go. We got number one is no centralized view of operational data. And then also coming very closely is critical information is spread across a lot of SaaS applications. So that's good because that is exactly what our webinar is about. So these are the pain points that we hear often, and they're really top of mind, which is exactly the reason that we're doing this webinar. So let me give you a little bit of background on what we're going to be covering today. So first, we're going to discuss why organizations are looking at data ingestions and data platforms like Snowflake to help them solve many of these issues. And how do we go from these fragmented flows that we might have to a one resilient sink? And then Prabhath is going to discuss why teams are also consolidating around a unified data platform. And last, we'll walk through how organizations are turning what's in those data platforms into real business action. So to get things off and kind of like talk a little bit about this landscape, I want to talk about sort of why people are looking to do this, why these AI needs to be ready for these types of projects. So here at Celigo, we talk to a bunch of different groups of organizations and people within those organizations. And when we talk to them about data ingestion and what some of the goals they have for their AI, when we talk to revenue operations, sales operations, a lot of times it's around win-loss analysis or churn and revenue risk, renewal risk. And then we talk to the finance department, and it could be things like spend and margin analysis. Now, these are by no means all the types of things that people want to do. They might want to do voice of the customer, but the common scenario is that the data for these things is usually kept in multiple different sources. So let's go to churn and renewal risk. A lot of this information might be kept in Salesforce. Some of it might be kept in Gong or NetSuite or Zendesk. If we're a SaaS application, maybe some of it is in Pendo. But all of that information is separate. And in order for us to get context around that, to really get that full picture of that, we need to bring it into a data platform like Snowflake. So at the end of the day, we have a lot of information. It's all in silos, and this was one of the pain points. How do we bring that in and get it into so it can be AI models and we can run analytics around that? Now, when we look at traditionally, and if we go to the next slide, I want to talk about this, how we would do this in the past. And a lot of folks here that are Celigo customers might even say, well, you know what, we actually do move some data in from different applications into Snowflake. And a lot of times people are using what we call flows in order to do this. So they're taking information or objects and it might be from Salesforce or NetSuite or many different other applications, and they're bringing them into Snowflake via a flow. Now, this works well, and it does work, but the problem is that when we talk about these use cases, we might not be bringing in 5 different flows of different objects from Salesforce. We might be bringing in hundreds and hundreds of objects for our specific use case. And to do that with a manual flow just takes a lot of time and a lot of maintenance. So when I build these flows out, I might have, every single one of them has to be hand built. And again, I might be doing hundreds of these, and all have to be maintained. Now, our organization within Salesforce, or when we use Salesforce, we've made 176 changes on our Salesforce backend just this past week. The problem is that when you build these flows manually, hand by hand, any change that you make in Salesforce could affect those flows. And I want to give you an example for this. So here we're looking at a situation where it's just pretty basic. What we've done is we changed something in Salesforce. We've changed annual revenue to ARR on the back end. Now, all those flows that we've made, this could basically break all of them. So now all of a sudden we have to have our engineers going through all these flows to figure out what broke, why it broke, how to fix it. And now all that information that's being analyzed in Snowflake is all out of date. So that Monday morning meeting when they're looking at reports, looking at dashboards, that information doesn't have that latest date because a schema changed and now that flow stopped working. So now we're talking about 5 flows, but imagine this is hundreds and hundreds of flows. And it's not just from Salesforce. It's coming from Shopify. It's coming from NetSuite. It's coming from Pendo. And all of a sudden now we don't have that data in Snowflake and it's not current. So how do we solve for that? And that's why I want to kind of talk about the next slide here. What we've done is we've created data ingestion, and we've made it part of the platform. So it's not a separate interface or separate login. It's actually integrated into the Celigo platform. So as we look here, what we're looking at is instead of taking a multiple flows, we actually have one adaptive sync. And this adaptive sync hits that goal of having hundreds and hundreds of objects from Salesforce that we want to move into Snowflake. And we also want to have it be contextually adaptive, so that if we do make those, in our current company, 176 changes, that they're not going to interrupt with this sync and get that data into the data platform in Snowflake so you can do that analysis. Now, this is a nice, pretty chart that we've made, but I think it would be really helpful if we actually did a demo. And we're going to show you exactly how fast it is to get a source like Salesforce into Snowflake. And again, we're going to use Salesforce as an example, but it could be any of our applications. So let's run that demo and we can actually see how fast it is to actually build this.
So before I build anything, I want to show you what's already running here because that context matters. So I've got 3 syncs live in this data ingestion environment. HubSpot is running daily. NetSuite is running nightly. Shopify is running every 4 hours. And if I drill into HubSpot and I look at our last 180, 20 to 20 days, I can see that if we look here, we have 440 contact records loaded, almost 600,000 company records, all sitting in Snowflake, up to date as of this morning. So NetSuite and Shopify are similarly very healthy. Data is flowing and the bronze layer is being populated across multiple different systems. So the platform is working, and what I'm going to show you right now is how to add Salesforce. And I want to show you how fast that is. So I'll create a new sync. The source is Salesforce. Worth noting, I'm not re-entering credentials here. It's the same Salesforce connection my team already uses for application integration flows in the Celigo platform. It's all the same platform. All the objects in this instance, as you can see, are now preloaded. That's the smart meta-driven approach here, where we can actually see all the objects automatically. This is where I pick what I want to sync and how it should land in Snowflake, both in the same step. So I'll select the objects that I need. In this case, we're going to use accounts, contacts, opportunities, opportunity history. And it's just 4 objects and 4 clicks. Now, as we talked about a little earlier, in the traditional approach, it would have been 4 separate flows that I'd be creating, 4 separate exports, 4 separate mapping exercises, and schedules. Here, I can actually just do this in just one sync. So I'll just finalize that, and these are the 4 that I'll be using. I'll go into load mode, and I'll set merge on all 4. That means that every run picks up what changed and updates the record in Snowflake. So let's say an opportunity moved from open to closed, a contact with an updated phone number, those changes land cleanly. No duplicate rows, everything is the latest version of that record. Now let's set up our drift policy. If I set this to automatic, that means if Salesforce adds a new field, it gets picked up and added to the warehouse automatically. If I wanted to be more conservative, I could set this to ignore, and it wouldn't add any new fields until I explicitly asked for that. Now let's set up this destination. The destination is going to be Snowflake. It's already connected. This is the bronze layer, raw operational data, exactly as Salesforce serves it. No transformation at this stage. That's going to happen downstream. Now, what I'll do here is I'll go in and I'll name the sync for this. And we'll call this Salesforce data pipeline. And I'll set the historical load date. I will do this for 2023, get some history. And we'll schedule this for every 6 hours. So the same day visibility without over-querying the API. So that's it. The sync is live. The backfill is actually running. The first full historical load from Salesforce into Snowflake is happening in the background. But let me flip to a sync that's already been completed so you can see what lands. And here are the results. We have 44 records across the 4 objects, all in Snowflake. The primary keys were handled, data types mapped, tables created automatically. I never wrote a single line of DDL. I never touched the warehouse directly. This is the layer where everything else builds upon. So BI tools, DBT models, AI pipelines, it all starts here. If this layer isn't reliable, isn't current, nothing downstream is going to be either. I can see exactly what changed on which object. And because I set it to automatic, it was already applied cleanly. No broken pipelines, no Monday morning dashboard surprises. It's all ready to go. So again, we have one new source, the objects and load mode configured in one step and running in just a couple of minutes. And the system keeps itself current as the sources evolve. And that's really important.
All right, we are back.
Right.
So you can actually see just how fast it is to get that source in and keep it current. So getting the data into the platform is one step. And the next question is, what becomes possible once all that operational data lives in one place? And Prabhath, that is your world. So can you walk us through why companies are consolidating around a unified data platform?
Yeah, happy to. And I think the story in everyone's mind is, how do I start to bring AI and agentic capabilities into my enterprise? And so that's really where the choice of a data platform and why companies are starting to consolidate onto a central data platform. And the vision here is pretty simple. It's bringing together all of the different enterprise data with the context and the semantics that connect it, right? That's the link between the actual data and all of the business terms and the business logic that exists. And so bringing that together is one component of it. The second one is having access to the AI models themselves. And so a lot of the data platforms provide access to models, and that's what Snowflake does. It makes it very easy to bring any model from any of the major providers, including open source models, directly to where your data lives. And then the last piece is to be able to connect to different software and applications. So partners like Celigo that can bring other data sets, or even direct connections to other systems where we have partnerships and data sharing. And all of that is controlled by what we call this agentic control plane. So you can start to build AI, build agents, start to govern those agents, and then have visibility over everything from costs, the outcomes, and really start to craft a ROI story from all of this data. But what actually gets unlocked is on the next few slides. And the first piece is one of the things that Snowflake does is it provides a data foundation. So a lot of companies struggle with, they have a lot of different source systems, including things like SharePoint or document stores where there's unstructured data. And so one of the things that Snowflake provides is a place to bring all of this data, regardless of the type of data, the source system, or some of the partners that we're using. And we create a data platform that can handle unstructured data, so documents, images, all of that data that also is very relevant to AI models and your agents, but also structured data that comes in a lot of different forms, whether it's fast-moving transactional data or large-scale analytics that you want to run. We provide a Horizon catalog, which links and makes all of that data discoverable, especially the data that's being brought in through partners like Celigo. And we provide an interoperable place where you can start to connect all of your favorite tools like BI tools, your agents and AI models, or even other compute engines like Trino or an Apache through our open table formats. And we provide a lot of the capabilities around querying with SQL, to building data science and ML models, to building applications, or even using coding agents like Snowflake's Cocoa or Cowork to enable your business users as well as your technical users. And this is kind of the promise of unifying that data. That's really where a unified data foundation and a data strategy is actually what drives success with AI. When you have all of this data together, you're able to finally bring together a visibility of your business, whether it's different departments, your business units, or even data from third parties like SaaS platforms and other partners, bringing that together. And that's what starts to unlock the things that you can start to do. You can connect your marketing systems with maybe other inventory systems to make sure that campaigns are in sync with your inventory to prevent allocation issues and other fines and other things with your downstream vendors. You can even automate customer follow-ups or enable your sales teams to have information at their fingertips across sources like Salesforce, as well as your internal product telemetry. And then you can start to even automate certain things like finding anomalies and issues and driving resolution to those. And this is all what's capable once you start to bring that data together across all of your different data sources and source systems. One way that we are starting to help drive this across the industry is in this context of semantics. So bringing data together is one thing, but being able to make sense of that data and understand that data modeling is the next challenge. And so to this end, there's a concept of semantic layers that many of you are probably familiar with as you get into AI, but starting to define not only the data itself, but the business logic is very critical. And part of what Snowflake has done with data platforms is built a semantic language. We called it the Open Semantic Interchange that creates a standard way for multiple applications, whether it's your BI tools, your ERPs, to actually be able to talk to each other and leverage your data. This also makes it easy for customers, once they bring the data together, to start to apply AI directly to that and have the AI make sense of that data. And recently, this project was actually accepted by the Apache Foundation. It's now called Ossie. So it's an open source initiative to start to build that semantic layer, which is the next step after you bring the data in. And as you'll see, taking action on the data is how we do that with partners like Celigo. And back to you, Eric.
Thanks very much, Prabhath. So it's very apparent that having that governed, unified foundation in Snowflake is incredibly powerful. And what I want to talk about now is to truly capitalize on that, you need to be able to put those insights to work. So now I want to close the loop and show the value of bringing that data back into the apps that actually power the business. So let's take another look at my favorite use case here, which is churn and renewal risk. Now, as we mentioned before, there are many different types of reasons that you'd want to bring that data in. And here's one example that we'll kind of do a deep dive onto. Now, we know that around it comes to risk of renewals or churn, information is going to be coming in from Salesforce, from Gong, discussions, but we also could be having support tickets. that you might not see if you're in Salesforce or looking at in Gong. Also, NetSuite is going to have very pertinent information about when these renewals are actually happening. Plus, and again, this is just for, it could be many different applications. If you're a SaaS provider, you might have Pendo information that you want to view in that same context that you have once that's in your data platform inside Snowflake. So the benefit is that once you start having not just one data point, but multiple, and they're compared together, you can start doing something like a score around churn, around risk renewal. What is we're looking at when it comes to the likelihood that this could churn? And then when we're able to do that, you can spot at-risk accounts just a lot earlier and on very, very current information. Also, you have the historical nature of this, so you can actually see trends and spot trends that we're seeing across the entire customer base. The other thing we can do as well is that once we have a score, we can start prioritizing who are actually going to go and help as far as what we can do, as far as making sure that this doesn't churn. And we do have that renewal. So being able to prioritize that is also critically important. So that's all the benefit we get when we start getting that information into that unified platform and we start doing the analysis and the analytics on it. But what I want to talk about next is where Celigo comes into play again. And that is actually taking the information, let's say in this case, that churn risk score, and actually taking action on it. Because it's great to have that, you know, that this company is a 50 out of 100, but what are you actually going to do with that information? And this is where Celigo uses its reverse ETL to actually take a flow out of something like Snowflake and actually start acting on it within the business. So let's say from a Salesforce perspective, we want to update that score into Salesforce so the AE can see that this is no longer a green account, it's yellow or it's red. Maybe we want to trigger a HubSpot cadence, an email campaign to people within that organization, and maybe guide them to help documents that they can use. Or maybe we want to have all that historical context and that information that we did within that churn and make it into a Slack post to the group that is actually responsible for that renewal. So they have all the context, not just one single side of it. So that's really, truly a important part of why we kind of want to take action on that data and not just leave it in the warehouse. So I want to talk next about stepping back from the tooling for a second, and I want to zero in on the 4 requirements for AI-ready data. So data in a platform creates the insight. The business impact happens when we actually take those insights and they reach your operational systems, like we saw. And for the data to actually be AI ready, it needs 4 things from the ingestion standpoint. It needs to be trusted. You need to know what went in and how it got there. It needs to be fresh, because weekly or monthly updates or quarterly means you're deciding information and analytics on stale information. It needs to be governed with audit trails and access control. And most importantly, it needs to be accessible, because data that is just stuck in silos can't power AI models or analytics. Data ingestion is how you actually build that AI-ready foundation, getting that data to the source where it needs to be. Now, we talk a lot about people that are looking to kind of like, what kind of platform should they be looking at from a data ingestion standpoint? And we've put together these 5 things that we think are worth kind of having a checklist for. So number 1 on this one is that, is it one platform? Is it really one platform? Or is it a set of tools that are stitched together? Can we have apps, databases, APIs, EDI, AI agents, all in one system with shared connectors, shared governance, shared monitoring? As we saw in the demo, we were able to reuse those connections that we'd already made for our flows within Celigo. So we got able to take advantage of the fact that it's all one platform. This beats having, parallel stacks. We have to run and have the governance on them separately, which is where risk can rear its head. Number 2, we need to look at the true total cost, not just the licenses. How many tools will this replace? How much engineering time will this save? We need to also be cognizant and be lookout for complicated billing that actually works against our goals for what we're trying to do around AI projects and analytics. 3, does it need a data engineer on standby? Or will it auto-correct itself and be schema aware? It should be built for teams that own the business data, not just data engineers. 4, does it do more than just ingest? Ingesting is important, but can it activate that data back to the apps that your teams already use? And lastly, 5, do you get full visibility and governance? One view for every sync, for every flow, what's running, what's failed, where it came from, and who can touch it. So those are all things that are prime considerations from when you're looking at a data ingestion platform and things you should be considering. We're going to ask one more poll question. This is poll question number 2. What's the outcome that you're trying to unlock with data ingestion? And if you get this right, what would it do for your business? We'll give it a couple seconds here. Prabhath, from your perspective, I think everybody in these that's probably attending has AI initiatives that they're looking to do, and I think what are some of the outcomes that you're seeing from your customers? They're saying the reason that we want to do this is not just an exercise of moving data around. There's an end goal. What are some of the things that you're hearing from your customers?
Yeah, I mean, I think some of the biggest things are obviously driving revenue, getting customers faster, being able to close deal cycles if you're on a sales and marketing team, all of that stuff. Those are the pinnacle of that. It's hard to understand how these things track to outcomes if you don't have all of the data sources, but then all of that telemetry that helps you bring that, and that's part of the benefit of it. But I think more deeply, I think it's the promise of AI is to reduce the time it takes to have some sort of trigger event to taking an action. And so it's that decision and action latency. And I think that's really the outcome that I see ultimately a lot of data leaders are looking to unlock when they bring the data in, but then also can control the actions as well.
Absolutely. And I see also so many different types of use cases, ones that I never even considered, but people are coming to us and saying, here's what we'd like to do. We want to understand something like voice of the customer. We want to understand these types of actions. And most of the time, we can't just look for one application to answer that question. A lot of times, it needs to come from multiple applications. So, you hit it right on the head.
Yeah.
Accelerate growth. I hope you didn't steer people into this direction, but accelerate growth and expansion. We can definitely see that this is a really critically important part of that. Now, we're going to do Q&A right now, but before we do, we actually have another survey, but this is a quick survey. It's going to see it on the screen, and we really want to know how helpful this was for you. So we want you to give it from 1 to 5 stars, and anything you'd like us to cover next time. And also whether you'd like to learn more about data ingestion as well. So it generally shapes these sessions. So I want to thank you for advance. And as soon as we give you a couple seconds to answer the survey, we'll go right to our Q&A. I'm giving it 5 stars, Prabhath, because of your performance. So you did a very good job. Really, that was very interesting for me as well. All right, so I think we're okay to jump into the Q&A questions. Absolutely. So we did got a couple coming in. Let's see here, one of the. So question was that we're already using a service for data ingestion. Why would we switch to Celigo? And we also use Celigo as well. What would it look like to merge together? So I think this is a common question that we get, and a lot of folks have been trying to solve the data ingestion problem. And a lot of times they look at point solutions to do that. And I think that's one way to go. But I think what I see is the value of Celigo is that in that demo, I think one of the things you could see was that it was all the same interface. It was all the same, login, everything looks the same. If you're actually creating flows in Celigo right now, it's so simple and intuitive to jump in and create those syncs for data ingestion. And you're also now having, all the governance around it. It's all coming from the same system. So you don't have to create multiple different types of governance for each system. So the benefit I would say as far as switching would be having it all under that same umbrella. And there's so many efficiencies that are gained as far as like, you can take advantage of all the connections that you've already made, that governance, the allocation for users, all of it is all part of that same platform. So you really do save quite a bit of time. The other thing as well is we definitely see there's people in this space that kind of give you the whole package of everything they're able to do. But when you look under the hood, it's actually a bunch of just different solutions all under the same name, but they all operate differently. So they have different logins, they have different types of credentials that you need to use. They have different like ways they look and feel. You can't like leverage things that you've done in one part of the platform in the other part of the platform. So they're kind of Frankenstein together. They're platforms in name only, but they're not organically built. So let's see here.
I think Nick,
another question coming in. And then maybe Prabhath, I'll head this over to you. What's the number one barrier you think of getting data AI ready?
Oh boy. I think what we see, obviously, once you have that data ingested, and obviously there's lots of challenges there. But I think once you have that data ingested, one of the biggest barriers is to normalize or kind of harmonize that data, especially across source systems or internal systems. There's always going to be differences in maybe the names of entities, whether it's people, like identity resolution, or objects, like it could be product SKUs or it could be different telemetry traces. It's being able to harmonize that, and that's one of the barriers that I think people struggle with to kind of create that. And I think semantic layers do fit in starting to combine the entities together to say, okay, these entities are similar to these entities for an AI. But then having availability to like ML tools and other LLMs to actually start to do the matching needed on an automated standpoint is the next big area. And that's one of the areas where data platforms like Snowflake can really help automate and drive. Yep. And then I can answer this next one, which is, would you recommend using the data warehouse as the intermediary between point solutions so governance can be built into it in the various data models? I think for the most part, I think we do say with your data platform or maybe a catalog that you're using, that's typically the place where all of the data sort of meets. And so with Snowflake, we provide something called a Horizon catalog, and we provide a open source version called the Polaris catalog that's been open sourced for Apache Iceberg. And the beauty of that is that if you can start to bring the visibility of that data, so the data doesn't necessarily have to live within Snowflake or your data platform, you can use open table formats like Iceberg to actually keep the data where it is, and then have data platforms be able to connect to that. But having that data at least unified and accessible and discoverable within a catalog allows enterprises to start to put in the governance, but even things like monitoring and documentation and semantic layers across that. And I think that's where Celigo can help, is that you have a lot of different point systems. How do you get that data to Snowflake or accessible to Snowflake? And then you can start to leverage data platforms like Snowflake to start to catalog and use AI tools to automatically kind of scope out that data and be able to build the right access, whether it's access to different teams, and be able to control that at a granular level, such as you might have data coming in from marketing systems that the marketing team should be able to use, but then you might have other teams that need to look at maybe the performance, but they don't need to have access to, say, the actual PII data, but they need to be able to look at the tables and run analytics and make sure that there's performance. And so data platforms help you kind of manage that access if you wanted to bring your own ML model or other capabilities into it.
Got it. Very, very good. I got one last question we'll take, and then we'll go to some final housekeeping. And the question is, we already use Celigo is data ingestion a separate purchase or part of the same platform? So just to kind of clarify, it is all part of the same platform, and we actually do provide, data ingestion is volume-based, so it depends on how much record you're moving to a data platform like Snowflake. But we have every tier of Celigo users, so we'll have a free set of volume every month that they can use. And if they wish to purchase more, they can purchase that as a separate purchase. So everyone that has Celigo is going to be able to use data ingestion today, and they'll just be able to have a ability of purchasing more volume if they run out of the free tiers that are part of that. So good news for everybody here. You can start using it today, and it's free. If you use it more and more, then you actually just buy a volume pack to actually add more. So that kind of brings us to the end of this. I really want to ask you, if you want to see this run on your own data, please book a demo. So click the button at the top right of your screen or scan the QR code. Also, in housekeeping, one last thing before we go, we are running a double feature of Celigo sessions in August. So on August 19th, an inside look at our headless launch with a partner walking through the ROI that they're already seeing from our CLI capabilities. And then on August 26th, best practices for optimizing integrations through peak season and other high demand periods, built on years of running commerce operations at scale. So register for the Celigo session series, and you're automatically enrolled in both. So the link is in the chat, or again, you can scan the QR code. And Prabhath, I want to really thank you for the time today. A wonderful session. I want to thank you. I gave you 5 stars, as you mentioned before. So I want to thank everyone else for attending and joining, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Thanks, everyone.